Hey Wargamers, today I have a video I'm pretty excited to make talking about a new sphere expansion, a new set of models available for us to use on the tabletop or just paint, whatever your deal is, it's there for you. But specifically I'm talking about a Kickstarter that is being run by Heresylab, a Kickstarter that I collaborated on, and it is producing a suite of resin models and STLs for the greater good. And this is actually the second collaboration I have with Heresylab. The first one was a similar Kickstarter a few years ago, and I think that turned out really well, and I was excited to do a second Kickstarter with him. And since that first Kickstarter, he's actually been the person behind the invasive wargaming model, being able to produce that and make that available to our community as a whole. So Heresylab has been a collaborator, a partner of invasive wargaming for about the past 3 years now, and I'm excited to see this new Kickstarter really take off. From that first Kickstarter, we learned a lot of lessons. This new set of models has improved scaling, so it really does match, the types of models that you're used to using. It does fit into your army a little bit better than the first round did, and I think the detail is much more balanced. Having the right amount of detail in the right spots, and not going overboard with some of the finer details that might distract in certain ways. So I think these models really do step up the game for this line, and really are some really nice pieces that will look great on the tabletop. This new Kickstarter features both some of the older kits from the first one, particularly some of my favorites like the cavalry that I showed off in my earlier video from last week, as well as some characters that were a big hit with the first Kickstarter as well. So a lot of the old stuff is returning, but of course we have a bunch of new stuff as well. More than a dozen new characters were designed specifically for this Kickstarter, and all of those are available as both resin and STLs. So if you want your models to be shipped to you already created, that's an available option for you. If you want STLs, if you want to print your own, if you want to print out a bunch of the rifles, for example, you can do that using those STLs. So a lot of flexibility, and the Kickstarter is already up and running. As of me recording this, it's already at about 200% of its goal, so it's already fully funded. It's already on its way to success, but there's still about 2 weeks left in the campaign, so that's plenty of time to jump in and pick up some cool models, whether it's resin or STL. Like I said, your choice, or both if you really want, I guess. But yeah, so in that time, I figured it would be fun to show off some of the models, show off some of the sculpts, talk about what the thought process was behind them and how you might want to use them in your armies. The first model I want to show you is actually one of my favorite ones from the whole thing, so I want to start off with some of the best, and that is this sculpt here. It's supposed to be kind of like a renegade leader, renegade sergeant type person. They have a helmet, they have a rifle. I love the composition of this. I love the movement and the flow. I feel like it's very cinematic, and it's actually going to be the basis for the next invasive wargaming model. So the original invasive wargaming model was based on a variation of one of the models in the original Kickstarter. This model here in this Kickstarter will be the basis for a second invasive wargaming model with different weapons, different heads, different arms, that sort of thing. So you'll have a whole bunch of different options on how you want to compose this thing as an invasive wargaming model, which will come out later after the Kickstarter. But as part of this core Kickstarter, you get early access to this original sculpt now, and I think it is just kind of bonkers. I love this sculpt. I really like how it turned out. This next model is meant to be a little bit more of a softer, more regal or elegant take on a type of ethereal character, so some sort of leader, right? And I really like how this turned out. This concept art for this, there's a couple different versions that the concept artist came up with, and some of those were also just stellar concepts and got adopted by Heresylab in an earlier Kickstarter. But here we have kind of what I thought was the cream of the crop in terms of concept, and I really like how it turned out. So this is going to be a beautiful model on the tabletop, and I'm really excited to see it in resin. This next character is inspired by Demiurge and Space Dwarves. It's scaled appropriately as such, but it comes with like a prospecting lens and a ion blaster, kind of being more of a sergeant or a leader type fella, a little bit more of an independent character. And really, this thing went through so many different iterations in concept. We went through versions that were more like geological with like really big calluses or even like crystallization on them. We went a little bit more like occult, and then kind of settled a little bit more on this industrial type of outcome. So I like how this turned out, and again, I'm really excited to see this in resin on the tabletop because the sculpt just looks really nice. Next up, we have our take on a stealth infiltrator heavy gunner type model. So it has a jetpack, it has a Gatling gun that's carrying around kind of underslung like that, and I've seen different variations of this, but it's this thing I think is dynamic and slimmed down to the point where it doesn't appear quite so robotic, taking some hints from earlier conceptualizations that were much more infantry based as opposed to more mechanical. So this particular model has a chest piece, it has shoulder pads, it has some leg armament, but overall it's pretty lightly armored, which I think gives it some nice momentum in the sculpt. This character might be one that you recognize from the thumbnail or from the earlier slide here, but this is meant to be more of a commander type model. It has a rifle, has a banner on his back, right? And this is one that I really like. The guy over at Heresylab, Chris, he painted up one of these, and it looks stellar. I just really like the way that it holds paint even, and it's nice. Again, this is one of those places where I think balancing the detail really shows through. It's not overly complicated in places where it doesn't need to be, and it has a detail where it's impactful. Like particularly if we're looking at some of the armaments, some of the hair pieces, some of the war gear all has the detail that you need, but it's not overly complicated in a way that's going to bog down your printing if you're STLing, or give you trouble with those details being lost with supports and stuff like that. So I really like, again, the way that we've balanced the detail and the form in a lot of these models, and this is a good example of that. This model here is inspired by a particular supreme leader. This is kind of a space pope type character that comes on a floating dais that may or may not have holographic projectors in the back of the dais. It's up to you whether or not this is a flesh and blood being or just a figment of your imagination. I'm not going to make that call for you, but I really wanted this model to have a little bit of power, a little bit of assertion, and not be kind of just a laid back old dude sitting in a chair. So this version, this incarnation, is standing up, commanding forces, shouting, getting a rise out of her people, and I think that is well conveyed in this sculpt. The character herself will be available as a standalone model too. So if you like the character, don't care for the dais, you can select that as one of the options in the Kickstarter. So you do have a little bit of granularity here, but I do like the dais. I think it adds a little bit and does give you a little bit of narrative if you choose to go with a holographic projector or projection, for example. It gives you a little bit more of context for that. And where would our Supreme Leader be without some bodyguards? Well, probably not around for very long. So here are some bodyguards that can help guard that Supreme Leader. So one of our most popular sculpts from the first Kickstarter were the Wasps, which were insectoid auxiliary troops, and we had a whole unit of those with different poses and stuff like that, but we wanted something that would be like a leader for them, a queen perhaps, and so that's what this model was conceptualized as kind of a queen for that. We used one concept artist for this, and ended up engaging with another concept artist later on, basically actually the same guy who had done a lot of the concept art for the first Kickstarter, and asked him to do his version on it as well, given that there's some differences in anatomy and stuff like that between this model and the Wasp that we came up with last time. And so The second version of this, an alternative version of this, I don't know, maybe you want to think about this as like a king and queen type situation or something like that. I don't know. But another version of this is this type of broodmother character that has a bunch of wasp eggs underneath and is trying to take care of those things. Meant to be much more like kind of like a moth or a bumblebee type of morphology here. So again, it has the similar anatomy to our earlier wasp, but is meant to be much more much bulkier, much more intimidating than the frame of those earlier drones. This character is inspired by bounty hunters and gunslingers and all sorts of Wild West stuff. So here we have a hybridization of like a bounty hunter and maybe like a type of scout leader or something like that. So we have like a pistol, we have a little drone scout that he has with him, and he's got a cool like coat and hat and everything like that. So very desperado feeling. But he was one of the first concepts that we came up for this, which was actually a while ago, probably over a year ago we started doing concepts, if not, definitely over a year ago. So it's been a while, but but I was excited when this thing started to take shape as well. Another one of the earlier concept arts for the Kickstarter was this kind of close combat brawler suit. So this is meant to be a bit more mechanized, have a bit more of body armor and some oomph behind it, but yeah, a lot of people are interested in close combat mech type stuff, and that's what this was intended to be. The second to last model I want to share with you is a dog soldier. So a saurian, a lizard man type auxiliary, which we came up with here. And then the last one is one of the sculpts that I think is I don't know. I just think it's pretty dynamic, and so it's a scout throwing a grenade. It has a blaster, has a carbine, has a grenade. It's running and throwing that, and I like the movement that the concept artist and the sculptor were able to capture in this. So, all right, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this something that you're interested in? Are there different types of models you would like us to work on and include as stretch goals, or maybe in a new Kickstarter? Put that in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you stuck around to this point in the video, maybe you want to join our Discord community as well. There's a link in the description below. Special thanks to all my supporters over on Patreon, but especially the folks that you see on your screen now. If you want to help make more invasive wargaming videos, consider joining our community over there as well.